1, 2, 3. There we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to a new video, a live stream, whatever. Okay, I thought I would check in with everybody, see what's up. I'm gonna cover as much as possible here. Not much has changed since I've last streamed, which is quite concerning, as we did say that Bitcoin honestly needs to start doing something here. And it's doing the exact opposite of that and doing nothing pretty much. So I'll just cover the boring stuff first as everybody starts rolling in. Today is the FOMC meeting. There's a 99.9% chance that it is a rate cut. So generally, you do not want the market to rally into these events, which was quite concerning because a few days back we were rallying strongly into the FOMC, and now we are having a pullback. But this isn't any surprise to the market that we will see rate cuts. And let me see what is the next one saying. So the current rate is at 400. Yeah, so it's obviously 99% chance that we do see a rate cut today. What is the time on this? You can check it out on Forex Factory. For me, it's a bit later in the day, but for you guys in the US, let's see here. So that's like an hour and really? Oh no, here we go. Down here at 8 p.m. So that's 6 hours from now. The market is pretty much already priced in these events. Let's see how many are predicted to in fact happen. So in December we'll have another one. So one more rate cut, 2 more rate cuts at least, it seems like the market is expecting. So this is kind of already priced in. So what else is there for the market to look out for? The S&P is just roaring to new all-time highs. But I'll just show you guys that there's some weakness in pretty much all the markets still. Let's look at the monthly. I mean, it's just printing bearishness, but you don't get in front of something like this. I mean, tops are much harder to call than bottoms. So let me check out gold quickly. Massive rejection on gold on the monthly here, down 7%, and even more concerning on the high time frames for BTC. These are just continuing to make new highs or new divergences as we're going up. If this was in fact the top for BTC here, this is an ugly candle. It's just taking out all of the longs and taking out all of the shorts. And this is an indecision candle. So I mean, if the bull market is over, you're looking for something like this region between 40 and 57k. Now I know you guys are probably not used to anybody being bearish in crypto, which is unfortunate, as everybody and their mom are always bullish. And to be fair, I've stayed on the side of the bulls throughout the cycle, and only now really calling for caution. And it is very confusing, as quantitative tightening has stopped and the Fed is talking about quantitative easing. There is some concerns in the repo market, the overnight lending. But I'm not a macro analyst, and much of these things are new to me, so I won't try and go into any of that. I'll just, frankly, the charts tell you much more. And that is not something newbies want to hear, that the charts are more important than any fundamentals you can ever look at. Some even seasoned people in this industry scoff at something like that. Anyway, what most people I respect, macro analysts and fundamentalists, are saying is that they won't be taking, or they won't be buying dips anymore, and they're just pretty much holding on to positions in this market now. Those people are mostly allocated to stocks, and so yeah, it just to how macro and crypto plays out. Generally, BTC tops before the S&P does. And let me pull up the S&P here. You know, it is probably better to look at the S&P and just put Bitcoin on top of that. That makes sense, as we have much more data for. So this is what I'm talking about here. We see BTC in the blue top out, and then 2 months afterwards, the S&P tops out. So let's just compare it to, let's say that this was in fact at the top here. Let's just go to the candlesticks. Oh, I don't have the candlesticks on there. We'll do it with the line chart, it doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3. We're in fact 3 months into this. But I know the candlestick chart did come in there. Let me just make 100% sure. Yeah, so this was the, oh no, actually we made a new top in this month already. So if this was in fact the top for BTC on the candlestick there, then the S&P has 2 more months to go into December. Let's look at past times this has in fact happened. You know, some would say that this was the actual peak, and the one after that, or Richard Hard would say the one after that was in fact the top there. So how many months was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, almost a full year. But if we're going to be absolutely technical, it was 1, 2, 3 months, and then the top for the S&P was in 2017, which is this one here. Just 1 month. But look how small this dip was. Finally went a bit higher, and then eventually also bottomed when BTC bottomed a month before BTC. So they're not fully correlated. You know, sometimes they're peaking 2 months after, 3 months after BTC peaks, and then, I mean, before that 2 months, but then went on and went even lower before that. This was 2013. I mean, the S&P just continued higher. So there's not much correlation here to even look at. Anyway, let's get to the altcoins. So this is total 3, which is all the shitcoins, removed the stable coins, and then divided by BTC. Oh, I had an amazing chart on here that seemed that I moved it. Let me see if it's in the other one. Oh yeah, this is better. Let me just clean it up. So this is a cycle analysis from peak to peak, which predicts the next peak, right? But obviously this is just a time analysis. It's not set in stone. But pretty much this shows that, what was that? It was December, 22 December. We should be expecting another peak in altcoins, and there is but a few weeks left for this to play out, which is disheartening, right? Now remember, this can still go up during the bear market, as all of the altcoins are pretty much down in the dumps, have not performed at all. Where BTC has, and BTC needs to, if the cycle top is in, it needs to come all the way down to 50k, right? So I mean, all the altcoins are going to do another 90% or another 60% down. Probably that what likely happens, and what I think gives relief on this chart a little bit is the fact that the altcoins are so low, and BTC probably just outperforms it to the downside, which sucks obviously for us, where the altcoins will still go down, but not as much as BTC. I mean, the Russell is at all-time highs. This is like the shit coins of stocks, and it's at all-time highs. And these, you would expect them for liquidity to flow to them at the end of the S&P's rally. The commodities is still chilling. Now, this is a good measure of inflation, but this is technically a breakout year. It's been in this accumulation range for quite a while, which isn't great. We don't want to see inflation getting out of hand now. And I think Powell has done actually very, very well. Right, he's all assets is at all-time highs, performing incredibly well. And the Fed's mandate is to keep inflation at 2% and keep the job market healthy. And the job market only now is showing some weakness. I mean, really, jobs haven't increased as much as the rising price of assets. They tend to rise together. Some people say it is because if you put the chart next to each other, it does correlate with the release of ChatGPT, and as just another way of showing that AI is already taking some jobs. Because generally, as asset prices rise, jobs rise too, and that hasn't really happened. It's lagged, which could be explained, right? Now, Bitcoin dominance is rolling over here. I did say last time it won't go over like 60%, and we just have that massive fake out, and it's kind of just like rolling over again. Now, once again, this is the same explanation as before, that if this is in fact a bear market and Bitcoin dominance has to collapse, which just means altcoins outperforming BTC, right? But that could mean that altcoins are just not going down as much as BTC. So this would have that same rolling over effect here. But I think that, that was your macro top. This was your macro top in BTC. And this was your complacency bounce. Let's see how far it got, right into the reload zone, and just reject it there. Like this last bump that we had here on BTC, that should have been, the candle or the momentum to take us to all-time highs, and this was once again just rejected here at the 50%, which is incredibly bearish, like right at the 50%. This has to hold like at 110 and reverse from there. Just take these viewers out the way. Check out the crypto bubbles today. I wanted to pull up the fear and greed because crypto fear and greed at 39% or 39. There was no divergence here. As you can see, the previous time the fear and greed bottomed out here, it actually made a divergence between the price. Now that's just a fancy way of saying that the price made a lower low, but the fear and greed made an equal or higher high. That's what you would like to see for a good reversal. but we did not have that this time. BTC made a higher low, and the fear and greed also made a higher low. Generally, this is where the market turns around, right? Previous, when was this? This was in July, when the market bottomed. Now BTC is the gray line here. The fear and greed is the multicolored one here. So at 39, we're still in fear. That is what you want to see, right? You want these things to reset at the bottom here. Oh, I do have it up there. So the FOMC, it'll be a very good indication of what happened. US data from the impacted by the shutdown. Tentative events are subject to delay. Okay. So it'll be quite telling to see what the market's reaction is during the FOMC statement, at least. The federal fund rate, you know, I expect pretty much nothing to happen, to be a nothing burger. Now, if, you know, the Fed doesn't like to surprise the market. So if it's a 99% chance, you know, it is going to be a rate cut. And there's all the discussion about TLDR, everything is shit and it's all over, no good market makers enhance, no it all. Yeah, something like that. You know, I'm not a financial advisor. Honestly, I know little, very little. It's been surprising to me this whole cycle, how much my intuition has been correct. And that is not something you want to hear. I feel embarrassed saying that. It's just probably your subconscious, just you can't remember everything you learn. So maybe that's the way of your subconscious telling you that you're on the right path or the wrong path. I don't know. I know nothing. I'm simply a dude on the internet. But it all looks pretty darn weak to me. The S&P, I mean, this is just rocketing to all-time highs with massive gaps there. I wouldn't... This is obviously, you know, people saying that this is just the start of the cycle. My word. I mean, we've been up only for years and years and years. Like, this was the market bottom down here in 22. You're just going to ignore all of this that has happened already? And the market has given you many, many times. I mean, the S&P has literally doubled since the bottom of this cycle in 2022. I mean, you're incredibly late if you're chasing buys here. And no one can tell you that this market is stopped already. There's no market structure to tell you that. Maybe on, what you call it, you know, we look for M's here. And they are on, what do you call it, Ethereum. It's much clearer. You can make an argument that this has cycle topped here with that market structure there. Everybody's saying it's going to 20k or 10k. Like DCC is saying 10k. I think B-Roots is also saying 10k. But dollar cost crypto only admitted to the bear market the previous cycle, way past when the top was in. It was a running joke back then, as you couldn't admit that the bear market has started. Now, we all make mistakes. The dollar is incredibly... This looks like a market bottom to me on the dollar. And that is the most contrarian thing at the moment right now. No one wants to say that the dollar is bottom. No one is interested in hearing that. But this is what market bottoms look like and sound like, as everybody and their mom is still bearish on the thing. Now everybody's saying risk assets up, and no one is saying risk off. The dollar is strengthening. Now, cryptos and risk assets can still go up while the dollar is strong. But for how long, you know? Stable coins, you know. Oh, we're back down below this downtrend. Interesting. Now, you remember, you don't want stable coins to gain market share. If this chart goes up, BTC goes down. And I mean, what are people looking at right now? Like, everybody is on leverage exchanges. And that's just, and gambling, you know, poly market is like catching all-time high. And that just screams to me like late cycle behavior. Like leverage, decentralized, perpetual trading platforms launching like every week. We've got Hype and Aster. These things, like last cycle you had like hyper gambling, like yeah. So, you know, where are people looking at stuff to, you know? Meme coins have fallen out of favor. It's still lingering around here on Pulse Chain as we don't know really what to do. But it's interesting that, I mean, X game launched, I mean, in gambling side, I haven't really checked it out. Maybe I should check it out sometime. I'm not connecting wallets on lives and anything. Look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA is pre-market, is once again showing all-time highs. I remember saying many months ago, maybe even years ago, that this is the AI supercycle. I mean, just look at NVIDIA. You know, it's got an extension up here at 227. You know, it's silly to get in front of these things, but people that are chasing these things up here are bound to get absolutely wrecked. And what I don't understand is why would they, the market makers or whoever did this, the exchanges, why would they have gone after the altcoins like this if they're not going to reverse it at all? You know, it's very confusing. Generally, you have manipulation like this, and they move it up to the other side. And you can look at what like they did during COVID, right? Went after everybody's positions and then just reversed the market straight up. You know, this is what these manipulation or events are for. You know, they reverse it to the other side. But it's just you know, if altcoins don't perform the cycle, it just shows how, you know, I don't hate saying this market has matured. But the altcoins, you know, yeah, it just seems like the altcoins are not the flavor anymore. It has humbled everybody. Now, I say that, and the next cycle, the altcoins probably performs well. That's generally how these things go. And gold is just raking everybody. The only thing about gold here is there's no complacency bounce yet. But apparently gold is incredibly. That's your complacency bounce, right? It just seems like it's gonna make a new all-time high, and it just gets rejected. Yeah, and once again here on Link, you know, this. It makes no sense to me as why they would have gone after everybody here if they're not going to reverse it. And where are these altcoins going to go in the bear market, right? Or they're just going to come if this is the top, which makes things complicated, right? You know, they're just going to send all of this back to their accumulation ranges, you know, and we bounce around in these accumulation ranges again for a whole year. Right, bottoming it there, you know, this will look horrific. You know, it's probably what needs to happen. And Solana, for instance, here, I mean, I know what should have happened is I mean, we should have already been like raging into all-time highs here. Let's do some extensions quickly. You know, at least be at 400 by now. And maybe even hitting like 1,000 by the end of the... I mean, that's way too far. And there's just not much time left. But now, you know, it's very hard for me to disregard the cycle analysis when... And it's just not just the 4-year cycle. You've got the halvening, we've got the Benner cycle, we've got the 18.6-year property cycle, you know, many different things, cycles. And maybe cycles are just a pseudoscience, you know, it could be. But it has kept us honest throughout this bull market, or throughout the cycle. And I mean, not everybody has seen a bull market. Only very few coins like Solana. I mean, not even Link really. Like, you would have thought that at least Link would have a bull market. But, you know, Sui did well. I mean, look at that. That's absolutely horrific. You know what? There is, you know, they can really just bring this back. Like I said, you know, it fills this entire week and we just move sideways. And then, you know, the next cycle starts again. I mean, it's definitely not unlikely, but it'll be devastating for many. But we have to actually be honest with ourselves that much of what crypto is a bunch of crap. Like, honestly, many of these things aren't decentralized. They're not immutable. Solana went down at least to 20 times the cycle, but the market doesn't care. Like, that cyberpunk narrative has totally been disregarded, disproven. Everybody's just here to make money, and you can do that in other places. Like the S&P has outperformed pretty much all investments throughout the last 10 to 20 years. And it's, you know, safe, you know, and I say that in quotation marks because there is a real risk of confiscation, right? These, especially in the Western world, these governments are getting extremely authoritarian, and it's quite scary. You know, if you look at places like South Africa, they've been trying to change constitutions to be able to confiscate property for many years now. And these are some of the most liberal countries, you know, praised by the West for their liberal constitutions. So I do understand that. And, you know, we also have apps that you can like have your tax-free savings account in stocks and stuff. But I mean, it's one company, and you know, the government can come for those things so easily. You know, there's a real confiscation risk, and that is the great thing about crypto. You know, and I think, I said this last time as well, that Pulse Chain and Richard Hart, he is all about freedom and censorship resistance, privacy, you know, all the great freedom of speech, freedom of listening. I quite liked that recent tweet. So, you know, I do understand that. But that doesn't make these things valuable. I do see the worth in that. Let me just not, you know. But yeah, it needs another cycle for these things to get through to the market. I mean, it is starting to get through. I mean, look at XMR. I mean, XMR I think is actually performing. Yeah, I mean, this is performed very well. I mean, and this, you know, it didn't perform. It slightly took out the previous highs. This is pretty much what Solana and Ethereum was doing this cycle. Like literally just taking out the all-time highs and repeating this. Nothing, these things doesn't have to make all-time highs. There's nothing that says that these things have to make new all-time highs every cycle, especially in an oversaturated market as crypto is now. But everybody has lost everything in meme coins. And so long, I mean, with the pump fund was like grossing millions and millions in profits. Maybe even billions. All of that market value. And then they launched all these perp dexes right at the end. And then liquidated everybody. Like, look at Hive. I think there's probably hyperliquid, right? Okay, look at that. They destroyed everybody on these things, and this looks like complacency to me. Like, if this starts emming out here on the daily, it still looks strong here though. Looks fine. The people that I'm talking to now, nobody wants to take risk anymore. It's a very, very dog-eat-dog vibe out there right now. There's just very few things that, like, I'm looking for anything to be bullish, and I just don't see it. I think Trump was listed on Binance US. It's interesting that actually happened with Trump pardoning. How do you say that? Yeah, it just launched on, yeah. Wow. It's probably better to look at Trump over here. 20% up. 200 million US dollars. Wow. It's actually got some structure here. It's actually not bad, I don't know. This is so heavy. How do they get it? It's already oversold. It's just absolutely destroyed. But look at that weekly. That's really interesting. There's going to be some interesting coins to buy, at least in the next cycle lows. Crazy stuff. I don't know. Let me know in the chat, guys, what tokens you want me to look at. I mean, what are you guys trading right now on Pulse Chain? We can get into the Pulse Chain charts. And I mean, you probably don't have to plot anything on this chart except for this range. Right, this is where we opened the price, found it as support, held it as support in September, held it as support in March of 25, struggled to get above it multiple times, and now again getting it rejected by it. Liberty Orden X. Where's Pulse Chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Fifth most popular. Fifth most popular chain by volume. It's actually quite impressive, not gonna lie, right? Top trending token still X game. I totally faded this. But I even made terrible calls on it. I mean, fuck. I think I said down here is don't buy it. Don't buy it up here. Wait for a reload zone, which is like. But I unfortunately didn't have insider information. Yeah, I was like saying to wait for it to come back here. It's pretty much back at these levels now. Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to be to feel sorry for anyone who bought this up here. Like, I know how the FOMO feels. Like, I feel it just like everybody else. But I mean, if you've been watching me for a while, you know, all you need is that freaking fib tool. And if the token is not inside of the reload zone, which is the area between the 61 and the 78, and so easy. Let me just even set it on default. I mean, this is the best, you know, the most valuable thing you will hear from anybody is clean up the chart, have it there on linear, take off the log scale, please. You know, log is really a silly thing. Just take it off log scale, use linear. You can still see the price action down there. We know that this is higher than that, right? Click on your fib tool, put on your magnet, click it at the bottom and pull it up to the all-time highs. Like if it's not in the green area, the light green area, you're not even allowed to look at it. Like, and I've been hammering on about these things literally for years now, right? Why are you chasing things up there in the red? Right? And I mean, then people want to call it the cabal and whatever. And I have no sympathy for those that are getting called out for their shenanigans or whatever. But this is the way the market works, right? You know, if people see cash numbers, that's real money, and they're gonna take it, especially if they've not made it already. If you don't have millions to pump into charts, for like, right? And you know, Hex has shown us that if you give people a free ride in crypto, they're gonna take it. They have no, you know, people are. Maybe there are some people that are benevolent like that, you know, but that seems silly to me as well. Like, who are you trying to impress with your goodwill? I don't know. That's probably not even the best good word to describe this, but you know, not taking these profits seems silly to me. You're taking all of this risk, all of this emotional turmoil, and not to take profits, just to look at the charts, just to see your numbers go up and down, especially if you're not retired or you have enough money in the bank to never work again. It seems honestly silly to me. You know, the market is there. It's yeah, you know, these charts are there for a reason. It's, you know, people are making money and people are losing money, and this is, it's just a tool to transfer money from, yeah, from the smarter people, from the dumb people to the smart people. I hate to be that, you know, crass about it, but that's how these things work. But either way, this is a good lesson for everybody. If it's not in the reload zone, you know, if it's not in value just means it's cheap. If it's not in the green box, you know, you should just ignore it. And I know the FOMO, you know, it's hard. There's no reason to look at it. And then you can go further and wait for structure on the chart, you know. Structure is just a fancy way of saying higher lows. And if you want to go even further than that, you can wait for higher highs, higher lows, and higher highs. So this low here, that's the first low. The second low is higher. And then we'll look for higher highs. That's a high there. And now you wait for a higher high. As soon as it makes a new higher high. Excuse me. that is a higher high there. You don't have, yes, if you want to be really safe, you can wait for the candle to close on the time frame that you're looking at it, and this is the 3-day. And I just want to, now, I've told you guys again, I don't own any of this token. I totally faded it. And, my interpretation is that, if the snipers are shilling it, they sniped his wallet, which means that if you go to pump tires, we go to launches, X game. He launched it from the same wallet that he always launches from. You can just go here and you click on it, create it. You can see these are all the tokens that he's launched from this. So, I mean, there are even sniper bots where you can filter snipes by his wallet. Only snipe his wallet's launches. He launched it from the same. I mean, everybody technically had a fair chance. He waited for much of the market. But there is some truth in the fact that not everyone knew that he was going to inject money into this. And another thing is that I'll give to those that are, screaming cabal, whatever, is that they probably knew how much he was going to put into the market or into this chart. But then again, I mean, this is like basic technical analysis. This is when a chart continues to make higher highs and the indicators continue to make lower highs. That is the definition of exhaustion. It's not the end yet, and these things can go out for a long time, but it's not the place to be longing these things. Only once it trades below a pivot like that with previous divergences. Now I'm getting very technical. I don't want to get too technical here because you lose most people. Then that's when and I told myself I won't, shouldn't give so much information that, it took me years to learn these things and thousands upon thousands of charts and studying them. Yeah, so and I mean, there's even more ways to not get yourself wrecked. And that is what is called risk management. If you're gonna ignore everything about location and whatever, you can still make sure you don't get wrecked by managing your risk. And that means not putting more than 5% of your pulse chain bag into one single altcoin. Because all of these are altcoins. You've got your cores and you've got your altcoins. Maybe just the L1 is a core. I'm not a fan of this core. It's just another narrative to keep people from just buying the asset that certain people hold, right? And then, I mean, it's right at the point of control. If we pull it to the all-time high, this is going to show right in the accumulation range down here. Or not, okay. It is what it is. Well, this is in value. I mean, if you've been waiting the whole time to get this, I can't fault someone if they're going to put in a small percentage here. Again, that's a very small percentage because you should remove everything else. Now, how I would do it is I would small percentage here, another small percentage at the 78.6 level, and another small percentage there. Or fade all of these lines and wait for market structure, Because these charts tend to come all the way back to, I mean, if I put it on the log, I can show you pretty much, all the way back to 83. That's brutal. And I don't want to fud anyone out, you know. But I always plot these lines many times. And it's just I plot those lines because that is where the sellers ran out. And there is still some truth to those that criticize insiders here. Is if you do have insider knowledge, you're much more willing to risk larger positions, right? This is how one player can wreck the chart down here because he's risked much more than 5% of his overall portfolio in something like this. He would have put in thousands and thousands and thousands in this chart and then buy the rumor, sell the news. There's many ways to, I mean, I've said it so many times this cycle. I mean, buy the rumor, sell the news. It always plays out every single time. And this is not being critical of this token itself. I mean, this is an amazing learning opportunity. I can go through some ratios for you guys. I mean, this honestly looks like this wants to come back to accumulation ranges here, at least. I'm going to have to close this position here. I longed it from here, like 1300. And I actually closed it up here and reopened my position. I got caught out chasing here a little bit. After taking profits, I rebought like a freaking idiot, not following my own rules. But can you believe it? We're all human, right? We all make silly mistakes. And the market, I mean, honestly, it looks overall looks very weak. This looks like macro tops to me. PLSX. Value for this is down here. There's no real reason to look for anything here. Is there any divergences? So there was no divergences yet. So this needs more time. This just looks to me like sideways action before another leg down. And that is risk off for Pulse Chain. Do you ever use the Bollinger Band indicator? I used to in the past use it. But everyone seems to be an expert in it now. So the Bollinger Band, the tighter the squeeze is, the more powerful the move is going to be. So the thinnest part is over here, was over here. But that still doesn't show you the direction. The market structure before that, the W before that, was the indication that this wants to go higher. Now the Bollinger Band can squeeze at the tops as well. And then dump down. Let's put up the Bollinger Band here. You see a tight squeeze here. It's just a volume, it's really just a volatility indicator. It doesn't give you direction. That is why the guy who created it, it's making posts recently about it on Ethereum, is he's noticing the W on the chart. Now this is exactly what we had back here. I'll just remove everything. You know, there's your W at the bottom of the indicator. So even this indicator goes hand in hand with structure. It's your higher lows and then the higher high. And then right as it gets, the Bollinger Band gets as tight as it's ever been, it does a massive move. Right, tight there, massive move to the upside. So it's practically just a volume indicator or a volatility indicator. And generally, if you peak out at the top of the Bollinger Band, you're going to visit the bottom. Just like as you continue to grind below it or at the bottom of it, you finally get a spring and you touch the top. That's PLSX. There's nothing there for the ratio, really. I mean, Boston is red today. Wow. Hex over here. See if the ratio still needs, not in value just yet. I mean, it's touched that line once again. And there's really nothing here yet for the ratio between X and PLS. EX. Oof, this looks terrible. This is gonna come down to the next one. This level here. Oof, that's an ugly V bottom there. Yeah, this is literally about to break down now. EX. Not in value. We'll talk about this when it gets down here. At least down there. I mean, this can even go further, but for now, we'll wait for it to get to 39 PLS. Let's look at the hex ratios. Just about to break down. So yeah, next stop there. Hope it holds. 2 hex ratios. This had me faked out a little bit. I was pretty staunch about this being the range here. That got me faked out. But at the end I was right again. This is going to come down to this W here. So 1/5 of the price. No, 1/5 of the price of BHEX. And this was way before Richard Hart's tweet, so this was priced in way before Richard Hart said anything. Ink. The incentive token. Oof. Let's look at the ratio. There's really nothing here. No, if I'm being brutally honest, I mean, this can come quite low. I don't know if this is manipulated or bought up, but I suspect it was. This is an incredibly inefficient move, like straight up. This is the only market structure you have, is that tiny little W there. This is something that will happen in the bear market. This is what it would look like. Or if PLS just absolutely outperforms everything, which I doubt would happen. I don't think it's a good idea for Richard Hart to rotate money into this during a market like this. Liberty, LBRT. Any questions, guys? Any requests? Nobody likes what is going on in the market, so no one is going to get views, and no one is going to. I did look at this the other day. I just don't like that fast move. So he's still posting, right? Still active. Joined March 2022. These spam tire tokens, if I'm going to pull up the RSI, it's going to be extremely overextended already. Look at that. It's like, I can't chase that up there. All I can tell you is that this needs to retest at this level there. X protocol. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find this. If you put in X, nothing happens. Diego, you post me a contract address. I don't think you can post a contract address. Oh my word. No, Ord is dead. Oof. There's nothing here. Just a full retracement. Yeah, there's nothing here. Hopefully you're not bag holding. Maybe I can find it if I paste this here with a. Let's look at what iTropo is doing. No, it was pretty bearish on this for the longest time. Ugh. Man. Don't I have more iTropo pairs? Oh, the only pair is on 9mm. This is doing no volume. Sure. Almost at my target. Full retracement. And this is the thing I don't understand about the PDI crew is these tokens are so heavily bonded. Look at this liquidity with this token. A useless token. Look at this liquidity on this thing. You know, if you want to talk about the PDI pig, you know, you have to talk about the fact that this is so extremely bonded. $12 million of burned LP with this token. It's just so incredibly. And all they talk about is like silly narratives, like silly conspiracies. But it's an incredibly effective marketing tool. It's been really, really effective. This looks like absolute death to me. Like this needs to go retest this. That was a V bottom down there. Look at this. This is a V bottom. At least on the line chart. Luckily, you have a W on the candlesticks, but it's ugly. Oh my goodness, yeah. And I mean, that's a V bottom. Still a V bottom. And this is, it's still heavily bonded to this token. Let's get the ratio between the two. Oh wow. You know, and this is just trading like a stable coin between these two, which just tells you that they're not overperforming each other. It is trending, slowly trending down versus PTI, because that is, there is at least some buying pressure coming in from the vast amount of people that are, for some reason, enthralled by the narrative. Wow. And then, not even to mention, you know, the bondage between the bondage law, pagan bondage. Where's the die? So there's still 30k here. And then it's bonded to Atropa again with $9 million of liquidity. So it's such a heavy token to move because it's bonded to all of these other things. Now, how do you explain to people that don't understand liquidity bonding how heavy these things are? PTGC. Vast amount of selling. Is this the largest pair? It does seem like this is the largest pair. I mean, these are these are the top tokens on Pulse Chain, and they're extremely heavy. If I put on the log scale, I mean, if I'm on it, I try to be fair with these things. There's very little market structure on these things. Now I'm just looking for W's, right? And I'm always, let's be fair, probably that, and that's just. Let's pull up the RSI. Still no bullish divergences. The daily, it's trying. What about coins that is only bonded to PLS, PLSX? Most tokens are meme coins. They're all bonded to the L1. And if Pulse Chain is going to go down and they're bonded only to Pulse, they're going to continue going down with Pulse as well. Unless they outperform, right? Unless they outperform the L1, the native token. There's nothing bullish here on this chart. Not only that, this is a fatal break of market structure here. You see the M here, the massive M. The complacency I was talking about here, that's your complacency. That's the market smiling at you. Yeah, don't understand me wrong. If something is bonded to PLS, and PLS is dumping to shit, that token is going to be dragged all along. It doesn't matter what it is bonded to. I have no favorites. Oh, no worries. I'm not at all offended in any way. Don't worry. Then I think, and then PDI is bonded to these things as well, right? Yeah, look at this. It's just 84 here. Treasury bill, and some of these tokens are mintable, right? Treasury bill is mintable. I don't know too much of the fundamentals about these things. I try to not go into fundamentals because you can go into dark and deep rabbit holes that just go on forever and ever and ever and ever. Okay, anyway, we've talked about a lot of nothing pretty much in this stream. But currently, crypto is incredibly hard to trade. You're probably better off just trading on the stock market currently, because everybody is confused and don't know what's up. All we know is that time has pretty much run out if you're a believer in the 4-year cycle and all the other cycles that coincide with that. My previous stream, we went into all of the cycles, all of the timing of those cycles. At this point, we're pretty much just waiting to see what happens. In a perfect world, if this was bearish, you would get that complacency bounce here, wherever it gets rejected at. And if we're like super lucky, and I'm being a little bit biased here because I like the 61.8, something like this, And then the only time anybody can tell you that this is confirmed to be a downtrend is if we start losing these lows, this low here. Now, before that, we're all just speculating. Because the definition of an uptrend is a higher high and higher lows. And we can go back here to show you that. Only here, and then we can go into divergences and things. Only there, when this broke above here, we could say, okay, guys, the trend has finally changed. We are in an uptrend. And the bull market has started. This is where the bull market starts, right here, on the break of the higher high. And let me just show you guys. Where's that nice little small arrows? Anyway, low, higher low. This is your original high, and right there is your higher high. Once the candle closes, if you wanted to be really, really safe, that was the candle close at 20k. And you almost got, you got a 5x, a 6x in this token. And this is BTC, right? What is your favorite on PLS, unbiased? Dude, I've traded every single token on PLS. Every single token, every token that I've liked. And like I sell halves on doubles and I sell back into PLS. I spoke about this previously. I should have taken at least, 50% of those profits back into at least stable coins. Or if I sold, I don't know. FIB is my favorite. FIB is by far my favorite. But we're doing no volume. And honestly, I didn't know what to do. The chart is that's there. A vast amount of it is burned. Just tagging along, eh? Yeah, that's true. Totally unbiased. This is my favorite token on FastJ. I didn't really have these because I don't just sell these things as they go up. If I have a double, I sell them. And Dick with Butt was cool, and I did really, really well. Felt like an idiot when it was at the highs that I sold so much, but it's absolutely dead now, right? The Dang Gang has left, and it's all but pretty much done, right? Then I did really well on Pikachu as well. Up here I felt like an idiot, right? Selling all of this, and I told everybody how to buy this, literally how to swap it from Co into Dick with Butt, and it's done now. And that's the thing, is like these things, they come and go, and there's nothing you can do about it. Doesn't matter how strong and powerful the community is, eventually people leave. Pikachu was also cool, and all of these tokens, all of these Pokemon tokens were cool as well. And at the top, once again, I felt like an idiot that I sold so much. But look at it now, down 90% from the highs. These things are not coming back. Most of them are not coming. I don't know. I don't see how are we going to revive these things? And I didn't dump everything in one go, right? I treat the market like I'm giving, every time I'm selling 50%, it still continues higher. I've got another 50%. You can sell 50% infinitely, right? But these things aren't doing any volume now. There's one benefit to bonding liquidity. And if the more tokens you bonded to, the more small microtransactions happen, and it at least doesn't disappear from text screener, because the ratios of these switch change so much. The bots see, okay, there's money to be made, there's a few dollars to be made from between Pika and Charizard, and it will go and buy some Charizard and sell some Pika, or the opposite. And then that's a small transaction. This is what probably all of these makers are here. All of these, it's 20 makers, right? And what else? It did really well on GIF. Like, I didn't even know I had it. Yeah, Dang Gang just grifted everyone. I don't know, People probably say the same thing about me, But honestly, what can you say? Too Spooky was probably one of the most benevolent guys that was not rich, and I saw him burn all of these thousands and thousands of dollars of LP before we even had pump tires, guys. We were burning LPs. We were locking up LPs. Because it was everybody did it in the cycle before that. It was bullish when a dev did that. In hindsight, it's probably the best way to do this, and people won't like it, is the way the Solana guys did it. Is 70%, 70 or 80% of the supply is actually just owned by one guy, but it's a lot of wallets that are bundled. Yeah, I mean, the narratives constructed. Yes, like meme coin super cycle and all of this bullshit that they showed us this cycle. Oh my word. Yeah. I mean, I learned a lot this cycle. And I mean, these Pokemon tokens were also a lot of fun. But these were never gonna last, because if one of them got good, you're gonna get a cease and desist. I mean, I've got endless and endless watch lists of just tokens that has gone to shit. It was hard. It was tough. But there were lots of opportunities in Pulse Chain, a lot. But you had to take profits, like aggressively take profits, and then you had to sell a lot into stablecoins as well. Now, if I do it all again, if I do all this cycle again, at least every time I sold half on a token back into PLS, I should have sold half of that PLS back into stablecoins. I hope that made sense. And take it off chain, put it in a hardware wallet, and ignore it. And then I should have done a lot of more swing trades as well, because Pulse Chain did have good runs. Right. Well, actually, a better way to have done it, and I'm just, this is not financial advice. This is just hindsight, right? Hindsight is, it doesn't really exist because you can't go back. But probably if I taken profits on an altcoin into PLS, I should have at least on these massive run-ups, like sell 50% if you're like start taking screenshots of your portfolio, right? I'm going to take out 50%. So you're stacking a lot of PLS as you're doing well on these meme coins and altcoins and shit coins and, all of the other stuff. But I know swing trading is also difficult. It's very not easy. But a really good thing to do is to sell 50% or percentage based, so you at least have more in the market when you were wrong, when you were left behind. But if you sold these peaks on the RSI, this one here, like at least now you've farmed a lot of PLS, and maybe it's time to take 50% into stables and send it off again. Everybody is waiting for the so-called rage pump, the God Candle by Richard Hart, but and honestly, like, I would be happy to be wrong. But why give all of these hex whales exit liquidity again? That's all you're gonna be, is you're gonna be exit liquidity again. Give this another 4 years. Hopefully, if this is a bear market, we don't lose these lows. It keeps getting defended, because if you're going to start losing these lows, I mean, it's going to get really, really cheap. I don't even want to go there. I'm not bag holding this shit, guys. Just to be frank with you guys, I closed most of my position at when we lost these lows. I closed most of my position, because this was, to me, was unacceptable to me. And then now I've just been farming it or doing the swing trades. And I've doubled the small position that I have in Pulse Chain a few times already, just by swing trading it. There's no way in hell I'm back holding this. No way. Yeah, with that being said, let's see what you guys are saying. Tango just scripted anyone. Yeah, the nastiness and the attacking of everyone. I don't think that's effective marketing. It just created a bunch of other, like, yeah. Could we not just launch a meme coin on pump tires as a small community? Yeah, you know, it really doesn't matter. People are gonna sell. The best way is do I don't know. I honestly don't even know. Like I thought I would figure it out. You know, we're all yeah. The cycle was hard. Definitely, this was a mini learning curve. It makes sense. I feel bad that I did not do that. So it's making higher lows. It is making higher lows, but unfortunately the market, the overall market, you know, if it's not good, not good in BTC, that confidence is not gonna. People aren't gonna bridge over. It's just unfortunate like that. It needs to be going well elsewhere for this to do well. It's unfortunate the way the altcoins work. Anyway, guys, like and subscribe the video if you found this useful. I've talked a lot of nothing pretty much, but anyway, it's unfortunate that the market is incredibly boring and incredibly unpredictable. And you know, maybe it was a perfect trap. Maybe they perfectly trapped a lot of false abuse is showing more inflows than outflows the last week. I did see there was a large inflow the other day. Yeah, I'm gonna probably stick around throughout the bear market. I'm looking to short the market as much as possible. You know, I've got a short up here as well. So yeah, I don't want to encourage people to do leverage trading. And I'll just repeat that again. You know, leverage trading, leverage is just simply a tool for traders, right? See, this is a very small. There's 3% risk, right? And the trader has a set amount that he's willing to lose per trade. Now, let's say I want to use at least 5% risk in it. I need leverage to get to that to 5%, right? I need like 1.5% leverage to get that to 5% risk. That is all leverage is used for. These 100 and 1000x leverage and 10x leverage and 20x leverage, maybe if you trade like in 5-minute candles, right? Maybe there's a case to be made, but most of this is gambling, right? But overall, leverage is a tool for intraday and even intra-minute traders, right? So you really think traders won't do anything this cycle? Let's be honest, guys. This is not the market condition to pump this, right? And there's massive whales still in this that want to exit, including Rackham Rochelle, right? And they're just gonna destroy this chart. You can wait another 4 years and get, I mean, the chart will be destroyed. The community will still be there. That's the amazing thing about Hex, is that all of us are staked in this. So it always has our mind share because we have yearly stakes that come out. So we're still going to be here in 4 years' time. And then again, I can be incredibly wrong, but I don't think I am. You know, the vast majority of people on Pulse Chain think is going to pump PDI. When the engagement that PDI posts get outweighs people that exclusively post about core coins, you know. So I'm happy to be wrong. I don't think he's going to exit scam or run away with the money or anything like that. Hey, look at that. We're actually at the other side of this candle. On this downtrend, it's finally finished. Closed. We closed there, but instantly got rejected the next month. Up and then again rejected. We're now here. Maybe one more retest of this level down here. And then we can go. No, it is best. It is best. I'm telling you guys, it is best if the market itself creates a floor, creates higher lows and higher highs. Because that is seller exhaustion showing up on the chart. That is the best time to pump it. And this chart is unfortunately still not ready. You do have the higher lows, but it has not sustained the higher highs just yet. I mean, this was a higher high here. I thought that maybe this was the breakout there, but it failed again and again. You know, we need to see this. We need to see it holding. Maybe a little bit lower. And then if he wants to pump the hell out of this thing, this is when to do it. You know, start clearing these higher highs, start closing weekly candles above them, right? Then that is seller exhaustion showing up on the chart. That is pretty much what market structure is, right? And then send this into the stratosphere. But they have to give up. And it seems to me that it needs a 6 more months of this. Because if he's going to do it again, we're just going to have the same shit this every time. Every time he wants to pump the chart, it just does this. Right? Doing. That's just way too many people that still want out of this thing. Now look how long this took here. There was almost a year of accumulation, right? Alright, guys. Have a good one, eh?